So many people don't realise that they need to let their insurance companies know before they start carrying out any renovation work. Why is that so important?
It's so important because what you will find with most, probably all insurance policies is that there are restrictions in place to sort of mitigate risk. And one of those risks is having workmen in your home. So it's really important to let your insurer know before any works are carried out so that they are aware of a change in risk. It's not just you and your family in your home anymore. You've got people coming in to the property that you don't necessarily know very well. They're going to have access to maybe all of the property, if not a large chunk of it. They're going to be in and out, in and out. They could damage things, potentially take things. So it's about protecting yourself, and the insurance company will want to know of the change so that they can make sure they're still providing you with the best possible level of cover that they can give you. If you don't tell them, they will potentially restrict cover hugely. So you would be without things like accidental damage cover, theft cover even. And a lot of people don't realise it's all these little nuances within the wordings
that they need to think about.
Yeah.
And is there a way that people can get additional cover out for the period of time when a renovation's taking place?
Yes.
To cover those gaps?
Yes. So depending on the policy, and we'll probably touch on this later on, the differences between a standard home policy or a high net worth policy or a renovations contract, there are options, many options available to ensure that you, as your client, has the cover that you need.
Yeah.
So the more information you can provide an insurer, they are better able to write the risk accordingly. So we can look to extend covers, remove restrictions that may be in place. If the project is going to go on for 6, 9, 12, 18 months even, you would probably need to look at a more bespoke contract, more tailored around the renovation side of things.
Yeah.
And so you would look to go to a specialist renovations underwriter for that. It's not often something that standard home insurers would be comfortable doing because it's not their area of expertise. So as a broker, you'd look to go to a renovations underwriter to be able to give the client the cover that they need for the duration of the works, to be able to cover the works themselves or anything that may go wrong with that.
Yeah.
And cover for the existing structure, so the build as it progresses.
Amazing, thank you. And you touched on earlier the difference between kind of standard insurance and high net worth policies. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean?
Yes. A standard home insurance policy is for your everyday 3-bed semi-detached, 250,000 rebuild, £50,000 worth of contents. Your average person. Most people can go direct and do those online themselves. It's not particularly challenging to be able to do that. The benefit of having a broker comes into play when you are a high net worth individual and you are amongst the more wealthy in society, you're more affluent, you may have more bespoke needs. And so you'd come to a broker because we have the knowledge and the expertise to be able to guide you to the right insurer. Because what we tend to find is that people that are more affluent, they will spend their money on different types of things. So different collections. Someone might have £1 million cigar collection in the basement. And we will know which insurer to go to help them cover that correctly. Other people will invest in yachts or motor collections. So you come to a broker because it's our job and we know which insurer will be best for your specific needs, and they can be quite specific in that arena.
And do you find that you come across lots of people who are underinsured? And why do you think people fall into that trap?
Yes, it's a real danger. It is genuinely a real danger and a big concern for us. And we always try and guide our clients with various tools that we have available that we can share with them. Because it's so surprising if you were to go home today and go through each room in your house and add up the cost to just replace things like curtains, carpets, furniture, clothes, bedding, all these little things. We use the analogy of if you were to pick your house up, turn it upside down and shake it, anything that falls loose, you'd need to think about covering under contents. And for insurance purposes, you need to be thinking about the new replacement cost of things, because insurers will provide you with new for old cover.
Yeah.
So if your telly's 20 years old and you paid £200 for it back then, it could be worth £2,500 now. That's how much you would need to think about insuring it for. So it's really difficult to keep up with the cost of inflation. We all know that. It's a minefield, but it's worth regularly checking to make sure that you do have a up-to-date idea of how much it costs to replace things. And underinsurance is a big issue in the industry because people, A, don't have time, or B, it just doesn't cross their mind. A lot of people who don't know much about insurance will just assume that, well, I've paid my policy and that's it. I've done what I need to do. But there is an onus on us. We are the only ones that know what's in our property at the end of the day. Yeah. Unless you are a high net worth person and you have a broker or an appraiser come to your property and help you. Yeah. Some clients, we will make sure that they get an appraiser to come and sit with them, go through the property, work it all out. And that negates the underinsurance situation then.
And how do you determine how much coverage you need for rebuilding a house if you're wanting to cover that? How does somebody go about kind of valuing that?
So this is far trickier because unless you're a RIC surveyor, you're not going to know. And it's really, really difficult. For insurance purposes, we only need to know the rebuild cost of your property. And that is literally the cost it would be to put the bricks and mortar back up and the cost of site clearance. So it's often, not always, oftentimes a lot less than the actual sale value of the property, because with the sale value comes the cost of the land, where it is in the world, all sorts of things will affect that, and it's often a lot higher. People do fall into the trap of insuring for the sale value of the property, and then they're paying more than they need to premium wise. So there's various tools that clients can use. There's things available online which will help you, but you need to know the approximate square footage of the property in order to calculate the rebuild cost. Or again, you come to a broker and you talk to us and we can help guide you or point you in the direction of a qualified surveyor to come and help you.
Brilliant. And you touched on earlier the kind of inflation and how difficult it is, particularly at the moment, to keep up with that kind of moving dial that we've got. But how do you factor that in? And as an insurance broker, how are you helping your clients when thinking about inflation?
So the policies that we sell in the high net worth arena there's a term that's applied and it's called index linking. So the cost of your buildings and your contents will be automatically uplifted in line with inflation, because we're not seeing anything go down, so it will go up. So a certain percentage each year, and that's calculated by the insurance companies themselves and all the people behind them and all the the people that work out all of that. So there is a percentage that will automatically be applied to try and negate any underinsurance, because underinsurance, that we've already touched on, is a huge issue. So they try and negate that by automatically index linking in line with inflation costs. But again, every year you should be reviewing your sums insured. You may have had things done in the property that's put value on it. You will have purchased things throughout the year. And so you should be reviewing every year really before renewal, just to try and overcome any underinsurance related fears.
What we're explaining here is, for example, in a level term policy, if you kind of were covering a fixed amount of money for, I don't know, £2,000, for example, that you wanted to be covered, if you don't have that rising with inflation, in 20 years' time, that £2,000 isn't going to be worth £2,000 in the future's money. And therefore, we've got to make sure that it is the 2,000 value at the time, and that's where the indexation comes in. So earlier we mentioned about the high net worth policies and the standard policies. Can you give us an example of something that maybe wouldn't be covered in a standard policy but would be in a high net worth? I know we touched on cars and yachts and etc., but is there anything else that maybe we haven't covered from your previous answer?
The term is inner limits. So a standard household policy will be very restrictive on cover for valuables, so jewellery and watches. They will want you to specify each individual item with a value in excess of, say, about £1,000 as a ballpark figure on a standard policy. There'll be maybe £10,000 as a maximum value for valuables within that policy. And this is generic. They are all different slightly, but just to give a ballpark. The high net worth policies, those limits will be a lot broader. So you don't need to be specifying any individual items of jewellery until they come to £25,000 per piece. Fine art, £50,000 per piece, whereas there may not be any cover for fine art at all on a standard home policy. So it's about understanding the wording, which, unless you're going to sit and read that at bed to put you to sleep, nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
That's why you would need to come to a broker so that we can guide you. But a high net worth policy will cover things like travel. A lot of the policies will automatically give that for the family or anyone permanently residing at the main residence. So if you have live-in staff, it will cover them if they're travelling with you. Standard policies wouldn't cover things like that. The standard policies are okay these days. They're not as terrible as they used to be.
Yeah.
They're a lot broader in their wordings. So it will really come down to the amounts, I think, really.
Yeah. And so you touched on there from a guidance perspective, that's one of the reasons you'd use a broker. What other reasons would somebody use a broker rather than going direct?
So your broker will be your liaison point so that you don't have to speak direct to your insurers for anything. So any changes you need to make throughout the year, any queries you have, any advice you may need. If you are unfortunate enough to need to make a claim, we'll liaise with underwriters, we'll liaise with claims teams, appraisers, loss adjusters. We will do all of that for you. If you're going direct, that's all on you. So instead of having one point of contact in the event of a claim, you're potentially going to have 4 or 5. And you will then need to sort of keep up to date with who's doing what throughout the process. Whereas if you have a broker, that's our job. We take all of that away and do it all for you.
Brilliant. Perfect. Thank you. I think that's all the questions.
Oh, a pigeon in the chimney. Pigeon came down the chimney, trashed the living room while they were away on holiday. It broke many, many millions of pounds worth of things and shat all over the floor.
Oh my God.
Imagine that, coming home from holiday and your front room and the pigeon just like, sorry about me. But it could happen to anyone, doesn't it? It just is a little bit more exciting because of the sums of money involved, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it could happen to me, I suppose. I wouldn't be quite as heartbroken if I came home to a pigeon in my front room.
So we are super excited that Jensten have come on board as our insurance sponsor, and we're going to be working very closely with you for this year. So can you tell me, Laura, who Jensten are?
So Jensten are a large insurance brokerage. We also have Jensten Underwriting. So we are an insurance company also. We are about 850 million gross written premium now, I believe.
Wow.
So we are up there with some of the bigger firms, shall we say. But we like to sort of pitch ourselves as being a bit more niche. We have various schemes within the Jensten Group, different specialities. Up until recently, Jensten has always been a very large commercial setup. So specialising in, they've got things, they've got an ambulance scheme, for example. So they'll insure ambulances and your blue lights. They've got a lift scheme. They do life sciences and tech and medical malpractice. And we specialise in all of these niche areas of the insurance world. And we're coming a bit more into our own now and bringing some personal lines, standard insurances into the group.
You also mentioned about how Jensten have been on an acquisition journey recently, purchasing lots of insurance companies.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So the Jensten model was to grow exponentially over the sort of course of 5 years, which I think we have done and succeeded with. Our group CEO, Rob Organ, will be able to give you a much greater depth overview of that when you speak to him. But we do look to buy brokerages that align with our ethos. We're not just about swallowing up smaller insurance brokerages just for the sake of buying people in. We will look for brokerages that align with what we're trying to achieve and how we're trying to achieve it and the people involved in it. Jensten's very, very passionate about the people and its staff. And we do care about the people that we're bringing in. So although we are quite a big machine now, it doesn't feel like that from the shop floor, if you like. We all feel like we're valued and respected and that our opinion matters. We have a great HR team that makes sure that they really, really do put the focus back on the people. So that we can give that back to our clients and make sure if your staff are happy and passionate about what they're doing, that relays back to clients, I think. And that's something that is at the forefront of everything that Jensten do. So although we are quite a big machine, we still are of the smaller broker mentality. I think that would be fair to say.
Laura, you were really instrumental in helping to get our sponsorship over the line. Can you tell us a little bit about why Jensten wanted to partner with Frankie's?
We loved you. It comes back to the people side of things and working with people that share our ethos, and something that Jensten has been desperately trying to champion is the women in the workplace and having a spotlight on women at higher senior levels within the group. And you came along at just the right time to do that. And we were just blown away by you and everything you stand for. And I couldn't wait to get it across the line. And I didn't really have an awful lot of trouble getting it done. When they see value in something, they will wholeheartedly go in. And we're really, really, really proud to sit on the panel as one of your sponsors and the only insurance sponsor. Because we are aligned, I think, in what we're trying to achieve and in breaking down some of the stigma attached to women in our industries, the wealth management sector, the financial sector, the insurance sector. It's always been heavily male dominated. And I think we're starting to see the tides turn on that, I think.
Yeah. And it's an exciting time
Very
for women
exciting.
in this industry.
Go women. What's nice, I think, about it is that it was a client, a mutual client who actually put us in touch.
One of my our shareholders.
Yeah. And we insure his fleet, I think, or something like that. And he came to us and said, you need to meet Frankie. She will fit really well with Jensten and if you can help with the sponsorship, I know she's looking for that. And that's, I think, a really nice, the fact that our client, our mutual client introduced us, and that's sort of how it was born.
Yeah.
A connection that saw the benefit in both of our businesses and knew that we'd work well collaboratively.
Yeah. And I think from our side, insurance is often something that people want to kick down the road, in my opinion, that they, we don't like to think about the worst case scenario happening. Often, if money's tight, particularly at the moment with cost of living going up, you can often start to think, oh, can I afford to pay this premium? Do I really need it? Shall I actually get rid of this and, reduce my subscriptions and the payments going out? And that's a really tricky area that people can get stuck into.
Yes.
And I think that the purpose for me and for us to have this partnership is actually to put an emphasis on why it's so important and why insurance is the one thing, if you're cutting back on your spending,
it's the first thing to
that
go.
you should not be getting rid of, because you never know what's around the corner.
No. And it's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
It is a necessary evil, but because it isn't compulsory like your motor insurance is, people do begrudge having to fork out for it, because it's the same with any sort of protection policy. You only need it when you need it.
Yeah.
But if you need it, it's going to put you back into the position that you were in before that catastrophe. And if we try and explain to our clients that, especially with your home and things that you hold dear, you'd be heartbroken if anything happened to that and you couldn't replace it.
Yeah.
It's there for catastrophes, and to, if you go with a broker, it's, you know, we can make sure that should the worst happen, we can get you back into the same position that you were in before or prior to that loss.
Yeah.
As seamlessly as is possible and with as little heartache as possible. So we do try and take a lot of that out of the client's way. You don't,
Yeah.
you know, we're all busy, you know,
Yeah.
especially our wealthy clients, you know, they've got multiple businesses. They haven't got the time to be on the phone sorting things out. So let us do it for you. It's our job.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's our, you know,
Yeah.
area of expertise. So let
Yeah.
us take the flak.